And we're back to our tower, to our flame. And for those who think that, okay, now with the new sparse mode, I need to learn this again because we have a new fields, we have a new settings, I need to spend a lot of time to do that. But in fact, you don't need to do that. You need to spend a lot of time because it's all pretty simple. So let's call it the sparse, tower fire sparse. And I just will change, I will have the same source. Okay, so same fuel setup, all this stuff, but here I will, oh, come on, not too big, well, just can do this. Minimize that, press P to activate our properties here on the right side. So what I want to left here is I get the turbulence. I don't need a shredding, just wind and turbulence. That's all what I have. And I will remove these guys because I don't need them. So the pyro solver sparse and the smoke object sparse. Connect this, this, and this. So sometimes if you don't know where I can apply my gas disturbance or turbulence or gas wind, well, we have the force here, okay? We have this input for force. But now no one, some people doesn't know that, okay, I can apply even microsolvers to this input. All right, but how I can see this, can I apply my microsolvers or not? In each pyro solver, it doesn't matter, sparse or the old one, you can go inside, let's see, and enable the allow editing of content and go inside, and now you can see the amount of nodes which do their job. In fact, our solver is not like a magic node, is like a group of many different other nodes with a low level access. So if you want to see there how this pyro solver works, you can play with this node, the gas field warp. You just work here with some density data in a suit, the flames bags, and the dissipation. So we can work with that. Our disturbance. So the disturbance inside of our pyro solver in our shape tab is the same gas disturbance node just inside of our pyro solver. The same is the turbulence or shredding. We can see is gas disturbance, apply the shredding for us, gas turbulence, and all those nodes, all those microsolvers. Actually, you can see that our shredding is the same gas disturbance node, but with a little bit different setup. So we can play with those settings. You can see how we can apply this even in the this level. But anyway, we can see that all those three microsolvers, they merge into the for input, so forces. So you can safely apply your own microsolvers into the force input. Okay. So before going up, I just go to the object, disable that because I don't want to see it, and go to volume source and change my fuel destination. So the target field now is a flame. The temperature, all this stuff should be again the same, and I will leave this by default. Go to smoke object, sparse. I guess I don't need the flames. So let's make a quick setup here. And what I want to do, I want to apply the same changes here. So if you go to our old, the pyro node, pyro solver here, and we have like the smaller flame height, or here, 0.5, the time scale is 0.65, the coolant rate is 0.8. Okay, the buoyancy is 1 except of 5, so 5 times smaller, right? And temperature diffusion 0.1. All right, so if you go to our new sparse pyro, I will add the same settings here, so 0.65. I can play with advection reflection if you want to. The temperature diffusion is 1. We can play with 0.1 as we did in that solver. The coolant rate is 0.8. And the buoyancy scale, we had 5 times smaller. So we had 5 by default in the old pyro solver, and we changed it to 1. So in my case, I have 1 by default. Let's change it to 0.5, which is, 0.2, which is 5 times smaller. And I want to raise my reference temperature to like 3000 to have a nice simulation. So go to flames. And as you remember, we decrease our flame height, and the same thing I want to do with the flame lifespan. So I decrease it like 4 times smaller to 0.5, and with the shape. So just a few changing. I don't need dissipation because I don't have any kind of smoke here. So enable disturbance, and maybe left this by default like 0.5, but I want to play not with the density, I want to play with the flame. Okay, I changed my threshold field again because I don't have a density. And maybe decrease the block size from 0.2 to 0.15. Right now with the shredding, the first thing I want to change here is maybe influence. So increase this to 15. I want to have more separately flames rising up, and decrease the block size to 0.15 too, like we did with the disturbance. And well, with advanced tab, maybe increase the number of sub-steps, and doesn't matter in this case. So yeah, maybe increase it to 2. Let's see, what do we have? So I turn on simulation because I turned this off later, and I want to change my name for my file. Come on, so say yes, and I want to change this name to Fire Tower Sparse version 1. Okay, now play this. Do I have something? And yeah, I have something, but I'm not changing here the multi-field. So oops, not a domain, disable that, multi-field, set 0, set here, I don't know, you can set a flame, doesn't matter, and 1 from here. So basically I want to set a visualization just to look on this flame. Is there any kind of simulation or not? Because I can't see this. Yeah, we have some flame. And temperature, cool. And yep. So it's like looking like it's shrinking. Our container became bigger and bigger because it's pretty small at the start. Okay, so here our simulation, cool. And we had the voxel size 0.1, which is pretty big. Okay, so let's do the same, the same 0.02 voxel size. So another thing I want to change here is we can close this below y. Okay, I don't need this. I think I don't need this because there's no container below 0. So, but now when I change my voxel size to 0.2, what is interesting gonna happen here? And there's no simulation. Oh god. So what is wrong here? If we change our voxel size to 0.1 and play again we have simulation, but with the lower voxel size, there is no sim. And it's interesting why. We change just voxel size. Somebody can say, okay, let's link it with our source, because this source linked it to our old smoke object from the fire theme. So we can paste relative reference to link now with new solver, with a new smoke object, but it doesn't fix the problem. We don't have any kind of simulation. And the reason is because it can't find the source. If you go to our Pyro Solver Sparse, go to Advanced tab, we have the resizing, which is look on the density and the flame, but we don't have a flame field now, because for creating flame field, we need to send from the fuel field information, and then we create a flame, and after that we create a density, but we don't have density even. So we can go and type here flame and, or let's say fuel. Okay, so where the fuel field exists, we will have a simulation, but again, there is nothing here. All right, so we can type this fuel in the extra field if you want to. So our fuel is the extra field, but again, nothing. So the thing is, if you look at our, where are you? Look at our source, is a little bit away from our main container here. So look at our container, okay? So it's somewhere there, our smoke object. All right, so what I can do, I can move the center of my smoke object sparse. Let's get a flat maybe. And you can see that this container is somewhere in the middle between our sources. So what I can do, I can change the position for our center. Come on, let's go to the first frame because I want to change it here and not the X maybe. So let's change it again. So let's type it here, maybe closer up, not Y, the over here, this area. Let's play it and nothing more here. So let's drag it 0.4 and maybe above this region. So send it up somewhere here, and yeah, now we have an ignition. So we find the field, the proper field, and now our smoke object now rise up. And simulation rise and rise and begin, begin. So we'll stop it. Now we have an ignition. You can see that now this process is going, all's fine. And okay, I'll stop it and let's cache this out to see is there a big difference between those simulations. I tried to do the same, but definitely we will have a little bit different results. So fire the sparse import. And what I should add here is choose the flame except of the heat field. And I need to choose my file sparse except and fire this sparse. So enable the import field, and yeah, it's working all right. So well, what I need to do is just save it, fire, stop it, come on. It takes some time because we have a very, well, not very, but anyway, the high res theme. So let's go and call it sparse version 01. And let's save this simulation. And now you can see what we have with the flipbook. Well, can add even more turbulence, I guess, because it's very straight in this way, the direction. Can play with that, or maybe play with the sourcing, play with the temperature. So I disable volume visualization, and I want to add the the pyro post process to see what is the better settings for our fire. So we can play with this, and with the binding, I don't have a density, so we can send a temperature here and turn this into 0. I don't need any smoke. So now our flame is much smaller flames, because when we have a preview, we can see the all range of my flame. So we can play with the physical black body if you want to. It creates a nice gradient. You can play with the temperature. You can apply a bigger to increase our brightness, let's say. Or we can play like we did with this simple pyro, with the old pyro. We can play with the gradient. And I don't want to apply any shader here because I use the pyro source. Go to out and fire sparse input and go to object, this render. So this is our last render from the old pyro. Takes some time for doing something. I don't know what exactly, but something is doing now. Let's create some gradients here. There, just randomly. I don't know what settings is better. We need to oops, get back. So I don't want to spend a lot of time for tweaking this. I just want to show you that we can apply the same setting, almost the same settings or the same methods to get almost the same result, but using the different tools. In this case, we use a sparse solver. And yeah, even with this, when we have like an almost the bounding box container, because there is not too many space without flame or with some empty voxels, but anyway, it's like 15% faster, maybe 20% faster in calculation, even in this level. So basically, I don't know, do I need to use a sparse for some kind of simulation when we don't have, actually it's like a bounding box over here, right? Not too many empty pixels, voxels. But even in this stage, we have something. Yeah, I need to increase intensity a bit because it always differs from rendering and between the rendering and between your visualization in the viewport. Always have a difference, because now you can see that we had very bright flames on the viewport, but with rendering, with intensity scale 1, we have a very, very, very low brightness. Maybe 10, maybe even more, I don't know. You can play with that. Yeah, definitely can do even more. I just want to see a texture now. And now in this pyropost process, we have a little bit different setup. So we have the flame intensity ramp for our flame intensity. It's just like, the transparency for our flames. And we have the ramp for the temperature range. So for the last render, we use our field to define where I want to apply our gradient. We set the ranges here. Yeah, and we did this in our shader. In those materials, we can grab our temperature and we choose our minimum and maximum range for that. And now I do almost the same, but now I can play with the flame range. So I can say that, okay, I can type here 0.3 to 0.4. So now I can see, oh, yeah, thing I want to do here is turn off my, the motion blur, because I want to see many details. So anyway, I can snap it just to see difference of the settings. So 0.4, let's say, and render again. It's not bad, it's looking not bad. Even from this area, maybe increase the intensity scale, should be work fine for us. And yep, without motion blur, maybe a bit bigger flame range, because we have like holes inside the black holes. We will erase those holes with the motion blur, but now we can see that our flame has smaller values. It's not such big now. So we decrease the flame range. So now all my values which has the settings lower than 0.3 will be transparent or the black, like here. Cool. So now squeeze to 15 maybe, just to make it a little bit more brighter. Anyway, we can decrease the brightness on the compositing stage if you want to play with the gain or with the with white point. We can definitely do it. Maybe I just want to apply here more red, just to have a better gradient. Yeah, now it's looking better. So now you can see that now we have on those flames more higher temperatures rather than zeros, because almost all those settings except of just here somewhere we have more reddish color, and it's looking good. So get back to our out, and I want to turn on a motion blur. get back it. So it's pretty almost the same even on shader stage. You can see we can play with the ramp, we can play with the range, with flame range, with the temperature range. If you want to, you can change those numbers here. You can change even intensity ramp. I don't want to do this for now, but you can play with this. So it's pretty flat from 0.4 to 0.3, just, you know, going down and down. You can make it more contrast. Okay, let's render this out, and I want to maybe change the flame range a little bit smaller and add the intensity scale even bigger. So yeah, let's do this 0.2 and go to 20. And it's looking like this. All right. So that is the difference. You can see that there's not too many work to understand the new features. We can simply apply it even for older projects. You can grab just your old project when you create a fire or an explosion or some smoke stuff and play with the sparse mode, compare results, not just with the final render, but with the calculation time, with render time, because the smaller cache you have, the smaller file cache, just the faster result can be just in the stage of loading those files, especially if you work on internet and you have a network rendering. That's always the main problem, where we had very huge caches we can't send somewhere for rendering. So now we can play with this and make this even better.